Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varishtaya ramakrishnaya te namaha yathagner dahika shakti ramakrishne stitahya sarvasvarupam sharadam pranamamyaham Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om. I will chant the universal selfless prayer for the welfare of all people. Those who know it, keeping your mic in mute status, you can repeat for yourself. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha vag bhavet, sarvastaratu durgani, sarvo bhadrani pashyatu, sarvasad buddhimapnotu, sarvasarvatra nandatu. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Good evening, Namaste, Shubha Sandhya to everybody participating in this very important course on crisis management. This is the second batch, second time that we are doing this program as part of our celebrations, 20 years of human excellence, Institute's existence and service to the society. And this is the 21st year. Due to the pandemic, as all of you know, the whole world has gone into the virtual mode. Every class, all the classes, school children, colleges, training institutes, everything, everybody is doing online. So we also have fallen into that system, conducting online. In a way, we are able to reach the people, come to know more new people who are spread out in the whole country and the world also. Somebody in Germany, somebody in America, somebody in England have joined our courses. We're very happy. The message is spreading. And this topic, crisis management, for 6 days, starting today till Saturday evening, will be in 3 headings. Please keep in mind, 3 topics will be dealt under the main topic. Number 1, today and tomorrow, it will be on crisis. It will be on moral crisis. It will be on moral crisis. And 2 days, it will be on leadership crisis. And next 2 days, it will be on psychological crisis. So 3 topics, 2 days each. Today and tomorrow, moral crisis. Wednesday, it will be on psychological crisis. Thursday, a shift for 1 day, it will be on leadership crisis. Friday, we go back to psychology crisis. And Saturday, we come back to leadership. So just a little adjustment due to the faculty's convenience, who are connecting from different cities in the country, as far as Tamil Nadu or Bangalore or Hyderabad and Coimbatore also. So students are also spread out. Faculty are also from different places. Those who have got the expertise, those who have got the experience, knowledge in this field of crisis. And it is up to you to take it up nicely, absorb the spirit, understand, do research on that, Don't get, don't think that attending these 6 days, all the crises in the country or in the society will fly away, or rather you'll be confused and more you'll land up into crisis. That we should not be overconfident. You also should participate. You also should study and observe the things, follow the principles of management, self-management, discipline. That is what you are going to listen in the next 5-6 days. This is the first announcement. I have mentioned the timetable. Please note it down and participate. Every class, every session is important. Nothing can be more important than solving crisis or conflict management. So it is up to you. You're working, you're studying, you're busy the whole day, but 1 hour plus 10-15 minutes extra to clear the doubts and other things. So as much as we are spending time, the faculty is spending time, you also should adjust your time, priorities, what is important, what is not important. So anything before the class or after the class, just suspend it for 1 hour plus 15 minutes. Say about 75 minutes, you can suspend your other work and attend this course and then go back to that work. That is how time management can be taken care. Okay. Then third announcement I want to make is there's a slight error in sending the link to you. What is that error? Time. 6:15 we start, not 6:30. It is our mistake. We apologize, ask excuse. So 6:15 from tomorrow. That means you are going to log in at 6:10, 5 minutes before the class, so that I can give you some introduction, some prayer, some meditation, show some 1 or 2 clippings, video clippings of our activities, because 80%, 90% of you are new students, new people, professionals. They may not know what Human Excellence Institute is, because this is not a private body. This is part of Ramakrishna Math. It's a very big institute, 2 decades, 20 years, 18 lakh people have been trained non-stop. Only for the first time in these 2 decades, due to this pandemic, we have suspended the physical classes and took up the virtual reality, virtual classes. So 6:15 we start, and then concluding maybe 7:30, 7:40. Otherwise, it will become 8, 8:15. That will be not good. You will have your work and other priorities, other things at home, right? So please keep this in mind. And the fourth point, now itself, I am announcing, we will not be able to send the links personally to anybody. This is a registered course. This is not a free course. To send the link, just because, and that for that we have to keep another 5 people, 5 staff members. COVID time and restriction time, limited time, we cannot do all that. No personal, this one. Attending the class is compulsory, mandatory for your own good. Later, after the course is over, say about 15 days later, we shall upload it in our YouTube channel. Vivekananda Institute Human Excellence YouTube channel is there. Previous recordings, meditation classes, webinars, short talks, all are uploaded, nearly 60, 70 of them. It is for the public domain. So we will upload it later, having the copyright of the institute. Otherwise, it becomes a big problem. We have to concentrate on other courses also, which are commencing next week. And I request all of you, since this is a moral crisis topic, some dharma, some ethics are very important. You should not send that link to your friends. They will be checking the attendance sheet. Those whose names are not here, they will be removed from the list, those who are attending. So your name as registered in the application form should be typed there, or we will be seeing, our volunteer will be observing. Those people will permit it. And in case your friends, your classmates, neighbors, relatives, colleagues are interested to attend after today, till tomorrow evening, 5 o'clock, we will take admission. We are permitting, because online classes, we are giving some scope for new people to attend. You can note that and ask them to register earlier, tomorrow morning, bank payment, fill up the registration form, link will be automatically sent to you. This is our special arrangement for 1 day. Afterwards, we cannot take, but because it disturbs the admission process. So I have announced what I have announced, what I am supposed to say. Now, a short note. We have our guest faculty already. Today, he is there online. I request Pramod Kumar, who is joining us from Coimbatore, to come online. And yes, Pramod, namaste, good evening.
Pranam Maharaj.
Yes, very good. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining. You are part of our guest faculty team now. Right?
Thank you.
Pramod Kumar is an assistant professor. Is my close friend for the last 10, say about 20 years. We know each other since his student days in IIT Madras. He did his IIT there, engineering there, and evolved into an assistant professor of Indian culture heritage. So he is assistant professor and coordinator of Amrita Darshanam, the International Center for Spiritual Studies, conducted by the Amrita Vishwa Vidyalayam, which is in Amrita Nagar, Ittimadai, Coimbatore, little away from Coimbatore. So he is staying there and teaching the students Indian cultural values, which is part of their syllabus. And Pramod is working there. He completed his mechanical engineering, as I said, IIT Madras 2000. Then worked for TCS in Hyderabad for a brief time. Then in collaboration with the International Forum for India's Heritage, he became the national coordinator and presently a trustee of VIHE. Then 2003, teaching profession in Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. Then he was recipient of the Yuva Shakti Award in 2005 in Tamil Nadu. He writes in our monthly journals like the Vedanta Kesari, Yuva Bharati, Vijayvani, Bharata Niti, and is a regular speaker in various forums. He has been with us online and occasionally physically also came to Hyderabad. So today and tomorrow, he will be dealing the subject of moral crisis, which is a very important subject. You cannot just think that it is only a course. It is a subject of tremendous value and importance and emergency. It's like an open heart surgery. It's like a brain surgery. Today we are suffering from moral crisis. So suddenly there is a break. There is apaswaram, as they say. Telugulo apaswaram antaru. Paadutunnappudu sudden ga the swaram potundi, taalam potundi. And then the whole kacheri, whole music is spoiled. So in spite of wonderful people, on the other hand, we are facing a moral crisis. And that is one of the major problems in the world today. Most of the problems we now face in family, in social life, in college life, between friends, then in the office, between parents, children, husband, wife, morality. Naitika viluvalu digajaripotunnayi antam Telugu. It's a slipping down. We are being washed away by some terrible force, just as COVID is attacking us physically and mentally. So unless you people, educated people, the young people, the middle-aged people, the professionals take it seriously, we cannot evade future war, which will be a psychological war and moral war. Forget about bombs, forget about this one, morality. What is dharma, what is adharma? What is to be done, what is not to be done? What is ethics? Should I do, should I not do? Should I tell lies or should I not tell lies? What is the doctor doing there? What is the engineering doing there? What is the contractor doing there? What are parents doing there between themselves and in the family? So this is a wide range of topic, a subject. Morality is a huge ocean like Himalayas. So Pramod Kumar has been in this subject, dealing with this subject, both from his student days till now in his professional life. So we have to protect our youth from destruction. We have to protect ourselves, the values, the karma which India has. So Pramod is working on that, sharing his knowledge on that. So without wasting time, I request Pramod to take over this platform, answer as per his this one, because tomorrow also we are carrying it over. So time will be there for interaction, for discussions and clearing your doubts, so that end of the day, by 7:30, 7:45, you can really get some ideas and practice it for 23 hours till tomorrow evening, experiment it and then go for it. That is how this course is designed, crisis management. Over to Pramod Kumar. Welcome, Pramod.
Thank you, Maharaj. My pranams to Swami Bodhamayananji. Once again, thank you, Maharaj, for the introduction, and namaste, everyone. Welcome to this course on moral crisis for today and tomorrow. Maharaj has already given an introduction where he has emphasized this fact. I think it's a no-brainer. Nobody here will disagree when we say that the world is passing through a churning today. It's in a moral crisis today. And what better time to understand than this pandemic, right? We see a paradox unfolding right in front of our eyes, where we are living in a society which is so rich in comforts and technology, but so poor in those perhaps basic fundamental ideas which set us apart as a species from other living things, right? So you have I don't want to go into the negative part of it, because it will make us cynical, but just to because we cannot shut ourselves off from what is happening in the world around us, and therefore we need to be aware, not that we should be cynical, but it is important to be aware of what is happening around us, because that will give us the trigger to contemplate and to see how we can be a part of the solution and not be a part of the problem, right? So just look at what is happening around today. Just a few examples will suffice to re-emphasize this fact that there is a paradigm shift that is required in our own individual thinking. So changing the society, as Maharaj was saying, is a long-term process. Changing the world is a long-term process. In fact, in Indian philosophical thought, we say that the world is like a dog's tail. And as Swami Vivekananda often used to say, in the process of trying to straighten this dog's tail, we straighten ourselves. In fact, the purpose of human life is that we strive to straighten this world, and in the process, we make ourselves straight. So, that is where we need to start. The individual is the foundation of the society. And therefore, if there is a shift in our thinking, if there is clarity in our thinking, and if that clarity leads to conviction, that conviction leads to character, then slowly we will see those sprouts of change coming in society. So to give you some examples, as I said, I was just looking at the newspaper today. There was a major news about a very reputed university in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu. I will not name it because our purpose is not to go into political controversies. But just as I said, we need to be aware. See, the vice chancellor of this university is known to be a very upright man. He is known to be a very honest man. And he refused to allow some students who had arrears to be given their degrees. And therefore, suddenly he finds himself in the middle of, in the thick of a big controversy, a conspiracy, that the government of Tamil Nadu is initiating a whole inquiry against him. A lot of false cases have been filed against him, that he has been involved in corruption, etc. So this is what you find in society today, that people who are upright, honest, ethical, those who seem to be holding on to principles and values, are swimming against the current. In fact, they face a lot of flack. They have to face, they are set up against a whole system that seems to be against them. So this is the feeling that a lot of individuals get today, that if I am upright, but if I'm part of a system which is like this, how do I fight against the system? Can I alone change the system? This is a thought that comes to all of us. So we'll try to go to the root of the problem itself. Why have we come to this kind of a situation? And how do we pull ourselves out of this situation? If we have to do that, we have to take a very, very logical, rational approach. And that is what I will try and do in today's and tomorrow's session. I will try and show you that it is possible to approach values, ethics, and morals in a very logical and, a very rational way. And then we will also try to understand the spiritual and philosophical foundations of how India approached value systems and ethical systems, what became, the spiritual and the philosophical foundation for adopting these value systems, right? So the problem with the education system today, as I always say, is that it gives you, it preaches to you as to what values are, but it does not give you this rationale or this logic behind the value systems or the moral values that we are talking about. So go and ask any educated person, ask yourself this question. Have you, been asked this question, or have you, does your education given you the room, the time to contemplate on this as to why should we follow these moral values that we are talking about? Why should I be moral? Why should I be ethical? Why should I follow these value systems? We have been told what those value systems are, right? From our parents to teachers, through these moral instruction classes that are held in schools and colleges, which have been a failure largely as we see what is happening around, right? That we have some knowledge, we have some intrinsic knowledge of these morals and values, but we are unable to hold on to them when it comes to a situation when we are in a crisis, when we are supposed to decide between what is right and what is wrong. We often seem to fail, right? That is because of this lack of clarity, right? So we will try and improve that clarity of thought to try and understand why these values need to be upheld. Because once that clarity comes, then given any situation, you should be in a position to choose between what is right and wrong. Not because some book is saying it, not because some prophet is saying it, not because some great leader said it, not because your ancestors did it, not because it was tradition, etc. But because it is the right thing to do. There has to be a great clarity that this is what should be done in that given situation. So if at individual level, if we have this clarity, then this will, as I said, this paradigm shift will then snowball into corporations or organizations or into society. That is where the paradigm shift has to come. So can somebody give me the answer to that question? Why should I be moral? Why should I be ethical? Why should I follow a value system? Take honesty, for example, right? Why should I be honest? Can you give me a rational, logical answer to that question?
Can I say, please?
Yes, go ahead.
See, if I am at ease, then the persons around me will be at ease. It's my responsibility to keep the people around me happy. If I am moral, then the people around me will be moral. If I am ethical, the people around me will be ethical. If I am honest, the people around me will be honest.
Okay.
And another thing I want to say, to do good and to be good, what Swamiji has told, we have to be ethical for that only, to do good and be good. Is that is the main thing of religion.
I got your answer. Okay, I got your point. But it doesn't go to the root of the problem. I'm just playing the devil's advocate, okay? Just bear with me. Now, suppose if I ask, you're saying that if I am at peace, then people around me will be at peace. If I am happy, people around me will be happy. But what if I say, suppose there is a person, suppose I say that I am happy doing things which are not moral. I am at peace doing things which are amoral. Then what? That is what, in fact, is the mindset of criminals in the society, right? They're very happy doing what they're doing. Otherwise, why would they be doing what they are doing, right? So that is, let us go to the root of the problem, okay? It is not for peace of mind, okay? Somebody, there may be who may say that I'm perfectly at peace doing things which are causing trouble to others. So then why should I be moral? Then why should I be honest?
I want to say that the people around me means my family. The persons, with the help of my ability, I will always try to suffice or try to give ease to my family. The most thing, the basic unit of society is my family, and we should always mingle family life with social life. If I'm at ease at my home, then I can do good work outside. That's the main thing.
We are going round in circles. Okay. So whether it is family or the society, see, it still doesn't answer that question as to what is the fundamental basis of morality itself. Why should I be ethical? Why should I be moral? Right? See, this is the problem with our education system, that it does not, it has never, made us think, made us sit up and think and go to the root of the problem itself. And therefore we don't have the clarity on these issues to, take it to the next level, to convert it into action. Okay. I'll present it in my way, as I understand it, as I have learned from great masters, from my gurus. As I said, I'll try and present a logical approach to these values and ethics and these moral systems, and let's see where it takes us. Okay, so the basic principle, as I understand it, is that we are living in a human society. See, our human life is dependent on the transactions and the interactions that we have with other human beings. Okay, and the fundamental basis of these transactions is what I call consistency in our conduct and behavior. There must be predictability in our conduct and behavior. There must be a certain consistency in the way we act and behave. Okay. Otherwise, human interaction becomes absolutely chaotic, unpredictable, right? Unproductive, and it will become what we call a lose-lose kind of a transaction. The ultimate thing that we are aiming at is what we call as a win-win transaction, where by interacting with other human beings we are trying to derive happiness from others and also trying to make ourselves happy. So if this consistency in behavior and character is missing, then what happens is human interaction becomes painful. It hurts. We mutually hurt each other in the process. I'll just give you a simple example. Okay, take a classroom, for example. You're in this classroom. Okay, imagine, let's say that this is a physical classroom. You are sitting along with, say, how many participants are there? Maybe 50, 60 participants. So there is a, let's say, there is a physical classroom of 50, 60 participants. We are all sitting together, attending a course. Every day you come and sit in the classroom, you choose a particular spot, right? You have a preference for sitting in a particular place. Why do you have that preference? Because you like somebody, you meet somebody who is like-minded in that classroom. Somebody is of a similar temperament, and therefore you sit with them, you gel with them. And therefore for 3-4 days, you have been sitting with a particular person and attending that class. Now imagine, let's say the next day morning or the 5th day, suddenly the neighbor, your classmate who has been sitting next to you all these days, with whom you have been enjoying your interaction, suddenly turns and slaps you. Okay, he gives you a slap in the middle of the class. I'm just giving you a funny example, but just to drive the point home. Suppose in a very unpredictable way he behaves, then the next day will you go and sit with that classmate? Will you try and interact with him? Because his behavior, his conduct has become unpredictable, inconsistent. There is no logic behind it. One day he is angry, one day he is not, one day he is pleasant, one day he is not. If he behaves in an inconsistent way, then interaction with that person becomes impossible, right? It becomes chaotic, it becomes unpredictable. I don't want to be interacting with people who are unpredictable in their behavior, right? This is the foundation of moral and ethical value systems in society, that if we have to interact with other human beings, then our character, our conduct, our behavior has to be consistent. People should be able to predict what we are likely to do in a given situation, right? So where does this consistency come in from? Okay, see, this consistency comes in based on our universal experience. So whether you are in America, whether you are in New Zealand, whether you are in India, wherever you are a human being, the fundamental principles which guide our human experience of life are the same, right? Those fundamental principles remain beyond time, space, conditions, and therefore all of us have similar experiences. So therefore, for example, take non-violence as a value. Why should I practice non-violence as a value? Because no human being wants to be hurt. The experience of pain is the same for all living beings, not only for human beings. Nobody wants to be hurt. Everybody wants to be healthy. Everybody wants to be happy. And therefore, I should behave in such a way that I give happiness to others and not hurt others, because I don't want to be hurt by others in my interactions with them. And therefore, this brings us to that first fundamental rational principle of morals and ethics and values, that we should treat others as we expect others to treat us. Do unto others as you would like others to do unto you, right? This is the fundamental thumb rule. At the end of these 2 sessions, my aim is to give you some of these, basic concepts and ideas, some basic thumb rules which you can carry home. And in any given situation, wherever you are, in whichever profession you are in whichever organization you are working in, that thumb rule should hold. It should apply in all those universal situations, as I said. These rules cannot be changing from day to day, from time to time. And therefore, if we can rely upon, fall back upon these thumb rules, we will be in good stead in any given situation. We will be part of the solution and not part of the problem. As I said, in any given situation, however simple or however complex, however difficult it may be, in any crisis, we should be able to decide for ourselves what is right and wrong, and we should have the conviction to do what is right. Right? So therefore, that first thumb rule, as I said, do unto others as you would like others to do unto you. See, this is a logical principle, a rational principle, which does not require you to believe in anything, neither in life after death, nor in soul, nor in anything. You may be an atheist, you may be a rationalist perfectly, and yet still this principle will apply. As long as you are a human being living in human society, and you are not living in a cave in the Himalayas like a yogi, where you are not interacting with any human beings at all, as long as you have some social interaction with human beings, this golden thumb rule will have to apply. Do unto others as you would like others to do unto you. So please apply this to, any given situation in life, or to any value that you consider as a value, and you will see that it holds. Honesty, for example, right? Why should I be honest? Because I expect others to be honest with me. I don't like to be taken for a ride. I don't like to be cheated by my friends and my colleagues and my relatives or whoever it may be. And therefore, I should behave in a way that I am honest with them. They do not feel cheated by me, or, they do not feel being taken for a ride by me. Whether it is truthfulness, right? I should be truthful to others because I expect others to speak the truth to me and not lie to me again. Okay. So whether it is non-violence, whether it is ahimsa, whether it is satyam, whether it is honesty, whether it is any principle, you will see that this basic thumb rule will apply. All we need to do is, in any given situation, remember that how you treat others will form the bottom line of all moral systems. Your success as a human being in the long run will depend on, you will be judged as a human being, you will be judged as a professional in wherever you are as an organization, on how you treat your family members, your friends, your relatives, your colleagues, right? So please make this a thumb rule of your life. Okay, so a simple thumb rule, but we'll go from here, from simple to more complex situations in life, right? This thumb rule applies, and everybody knows these thumb rules, right? It is not that we have all completed our education and grown up without knowing this basic thumb rule. We have heard about it, right? But we don't have the clarity to do it. As I said, we don't have the clarity to carry it into everyday situations in life. That comes out of a certain confusion. There are certain cobwebs in our mind which we need to clear for this, clarity to become conviction, for conviction to become character. Where does the confusion come from? One, confusion comes from wrong education. Wrong education leads to what we call wrong conditioning of the mind. For example, your parents, as you grow up, would have told you that truthfulness is a value, but when somebody comes and rings the bell, your father will tell you that please, go and tell him that your father is not at home, right? The very same person who has taught you the moral value seems to be actually violating it in practice. In theory, we are asked to uphold it, but in practice, when we look at society around us, we see more examples of people who violate these rules than examples of people who uphold them and become successful in life, right? Is what I said. If you look at some of the celebrities today, look at the politicians today, many of them seem to have come up in life by breaking the rules rather than by upholding the rules. I'll give you an example. I was reading about a very interesting case, again, which happened in Tamil Nadu. There was a bus conductor. Okay, he was running a route of between Chennai and Rameshwaram. Sorry, between Madurai and Rameshwaram. And one day there was a surprise raid by ticket inspectors on the bus, and they discovered that this conductor was allowing some passengers to travel without a ticket because he was taking a small bribe from them and allowing these passengers without a ticket. He was making a personal profit out of it, while the road transport corporation was suffering losses because of allowing these passengers to travel without a ticket. So there was a case filed against him. He was put under suspension. This was the case was filed, mind you, 20 years ago. In a Chennai court, it was filed. For 20 long years, the man lost his job. He was put under suspension, and he had to fight that case for 20 long years. The decision, the judgment in that case came about a year ago or so, and he was punished for doing that thing, right? For a small bribe of what, 200 or 300 rupees that he took, he lost his job, and he suffered the loss of his career. He had to pay a fine. He was even given a 6 months imprisonment for corruption, etc. Right? So this is for a poor bus conductor who seems to have violated the rule, who is seems to have committed some corruption. The law seems to come down heavily upon them. But what about people who have committed corruption of hundreds and thousands of crores? How many of them have been convicted in cases today, right? I don't have to give you examples. We are living in a country, which is ranked high in corruption today. Unfortunately, there was a time when India was known for its honesty and truthfulness. You look at, the historical travelogues of great travelers who came to India, whether it is Yuan Sang or Fahian or Megasthenes who come. In the first page of their travelogues, you will see that when they refer to India, they say that Indians all over the world are known for their truthfulness and honesty. Why has it gone away? Why have we come to this state today? Think about it, right? Because this basic confusion is there, that the small fish are caught in the net of rules and regulations and constitutional morality or justice or law seems to apply only to the small fish. The big fish seem to escape all the time. Why is that happening, right? Think about it. This is the confusion that comes into the individual mind, that I find that people who are upholding the rules seem to be suffering, and those who are in fact violating the rule in a big way, as long as they are not caught in the system, right? As long as they are not exposed as violators, they seem to be thriving in that system. This is the confusion of most of us that is leading to that lack of conviction, that lack of character, as I said, right? I'll give you another example. In a college that I know, this incident happened, that there was a student who cracked the engineering entrance exam, and he stood about third in the national ranking of that entrance exam. And then he came and joined the college. In the first semester of exams, he failed most of the courses. So the management was a bit puzzled. They said, this fellow stood third in the All India, engineering entrance exam, and then now he is failing all the courses. Almost 5 out of 6 in the courses in one semester he failed. So he was called for a counseling session, and he was asked, what is happening? What happened? You were a topper. What happened to you? So the boy slowly revealed the secret of his success. He said, the center where I wrote the engineering entrance exam, my professors of that coaching center who were running that coaching center where this entrance exam was conducted, they cracked the exam paper and they shared all the answers to us. This is how I stood third in the engineering entrance exam, right? This business of taking shortcuts has become the norm to us, that a student thinks that by taking a shortcut in that engineering entrance exam, somehow I will get a seat in a good engineering college. And once I've obtained the seat, I will manage the situation. I will go there and then see what happens. As long as I get a good rank and get a good engineering seat in a good engineering college, it doesn't matter whether I've cleared the exam in an honest way or in a dishonest way. It does not matter to me. Then after joining the engineering college, in this case, that fellow was caught, but there are many who are not caught, right? There are many who can manage the system. So even in the engineering exams, perhaps they will, copy in the exams and clear the courses, get good grades on paper. But the question is how long, right? When you take a shortcut like this in life to success, the question always remains, when you do not have proficiency, when you have not built your core competence in that particular domain, how long can you manage that system, right? How long will you be able to, hoodwink others when your foundations are not laid properly? So when you take shortcuts in life, what you get is short-term success and long-term failure. This is the confusion that we need to clear very, very, we need to have great clarity about, this aspect of it, that why do we take these shortcuts in life? Why is it that a government official working in a government office in India thinks that taking a bribe is okay? Because see, the fundamental thought process that is going on, the faulty thought process which is going on, is that he is seeing the short-term benefit right in front of his eyes. When he takes a bribe of say 5 lakhs to pass a tender, he thinks that this 5 lakhs will help my family. I can buy a car with it. I can buy a house with it. I can do, what I need to fulfill whatever material needs, whatever material difficulties I have, I will be able to overcome with that bribe which I have taken. But what is it that I lose as long as I am not caught, right? What is it that I lose? What is it that I lose is not visible to the naked eye, right? What I lose is something intangible. What I gain is something very tangible. And therefore, it is this faulty thinking which makes most of us take to these shortcuts in life. And therefore, if we understand what that intangible is, we will never do that mistake of compromising, of taking that shortcut in life. please think about what that intangible is. What is it that that person is losing when he is compromising on an ethical value like honesty, when he is taking a bribe? What is it that is happening to him, right? This is where, I want to introduce that second thumb rule to you. Okay, there is a very, very beautiful word in the English language called integrity, right? Nothing can replace integrity of character. What is this integrity? If you are a student of mathematics, I think you will understand this concept of integrity very well. If I ask you to calculate the volume of a sphere, how do you do it in integral calculus, right? You divide the sphere into infinitesimal pieces, small pieces. You will total up the areas of those infinitesimal pieces, and what you get is the total volume of that sphere. Your human character is like this. Your character, your personality, your mindset is a sum total of all those infinitesimal actions which you are doing in everyday life. The devil is in the details. God is also in the details. So what you do in everyday actions, in your simplest actions, is what defines your overall personality over a period of time. That is the thumb rule, that your thoughts become actions, actions become habits, habit becomes character, and character is what your personality is, right? So you need to go to the source of the problem, right? Your thoughts are where it starts. Okay, so when you compromise on any of these ethical systems, what is happening to you is that you become a split personality. Your mind fights against yourself. There is something called your inner voice that will, split you into two parts. One side is trying to fight against that compromise. The other side will go on trying to justify that compromise. This is how split personalities are born. Okay, whenever you compromise on any ethical or value system, know that you are hurting yourself psychologically deep, at a very, very deep psychological, emotional level. You are hurting yourself. You are splitting your soul into two pieces in the process of trying to seek that shortcut. Okay, so please remember this thumb rule. Second thumb rule is integrity of character. It takes a whole lifetime to build a character of integrity. It's a lifetime of integrity that you need to be committed to. This character, therefore, it is not something that should, can be built overnight. It is not something that can be done in a day or two, in a week or two, in a month or two, in a year or two. Okay, it is a whole lifelong commitment to these moral, ethical value systems that we need to develop. It is not, something that can be done in the short term. And therefore, each and every action will have to be evaluated from these benchmarks, from these thumb rules that we have. Only then it goes to build on that integrity of character. The problem is, it takes a long time to build character, but it takes just one action to break it. That is the danger of it. That once if you compromise, your integrity is gone. Integrity essentially means uninterrupted, unbroken commitment to that principle throughout your life. Only such a person can be called as a man of integrity, right? So you break it anywhere, even in the infinitesimal, tiniest, trivialist of actions, your integrity is gone. That is the difficulty of holding on to these value, systems. And that is why many of us fail. It is not wrong to fail, but these, thumb rules that we are discussing today are like a moral compass. Just as the compass will point north always, these thumb rules will keep pointing you in the right direction all the time. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, a man with an ideal, if he makes 100 mistakes, a man without an ideal will make 100,000 mistakes. So it is all right to make mistakes. None of us is perfect, including me. No human being is perfect. We all have our faults. We all have our limitations. We all have our weaknesses, our blind spots. But what is important is whether we are, aware of those blind spots, whether we are aware of those weaknesses, and whether we are working on them, whether we acknowledge to ourselves that I do have this weakness, that I do know that I have committed a wrong, and we are working on it instead of justifying it. In the process of justifying it, you kill your inner voice, you kill your conscience, and you go on justifying it. That is where you become a split personality. And therefore, that is what we need to avoid. You be aware of your limitations, be aware of your blind spots and weaknesses, but continue to work on them towards, excellence, towards improving upon yourself. Like a sportsman like Sergei Bubka, or a swimmer like that Phelps, who keep breaking their own records every year. They don't compare themselves to any other athlete or any other swimmer or any other sportsman. They set their own record as a benchmark for themselves, and next year they try to break that own record. So when it comes to morals, ethicals, and values, we are not in competition with anybody. right? It is competition, in fact, which makes us compromise these values. And therefore, we set our own records for ourselves. We compare ourselves only with ourselves in this process. Be aware of your strengths and weaknesses. Go on improving your strengths, go on working on your weaknesses, and this is how we achieve excellence in our life, right? So first thumb rule, do unto others, treat others as you would like others to treat you. Second, build integrity of character. Okay, what happens when you build integrity of character is that your reputation will walk in front of you. Long-term success will become possible for you. Short term, you may have some struggles, you may have some obstacles which you may need to overcome, but in the long term, people will respect you, right? Look at your own friends and colleagues. When they look at you, do they look at you as a trustworthy person? That trustworthiness is the fruit of integrity. That trustworthiness is what you earn when you live a life of integrity. If your friends can look at you and say, this man, this person, I know that he is a reliable person, he's a trustworthy person, I know I can bank on him, I know that he will behave in a consistent way, I know that I can fall back on him in a time of crisis, that is the greatest compliment that anybody can give you. So when you join an organization tomorrow, whether it is a educational institution or whether it is a job, whether it is a professional organization, your colleagues should look at you as a man of integrity. They should look at you as a person whom they can rely upon, right? And people who have lived that life of integrity are those who have become examples, leaders. These are the leadership figures. These are the leadership figures that we all adore and admire. I'm reminded of one such man that all of you would have certainly heard about, because I'm from Coimbatore. This is a legend. This is story is often narrated here. I'm talking about the former president Abdul Kalam, right? There is a very, very interesting incident that happened in Coimbatore when he used to visit Coimbatore. One of his classmates who had studied with him in Rameshwaram had settled in Coimbatore. So whenever Abdul Kalam would come to visit Coimbatore, he had made it a point to visit his classmate. And he had once visited Coimbatore, and during his visit, he was requested to inaugurate an electronic showroom, a showroom that was manufacturing grinders. In fact, Coimbatore is known for many entrepreneurs who make grinders, and they sell it all over the world. So this person had known Abdul Kalam, and he had requested him to come and inaugurate his showroom of grinders. And when Abdul Kalam inaugurated that electronics kind of shop, he went around and he wanted to buy one of those grinders for a relative. So this shop owner, he was so happy, he was so overjoyed that Abdul Kalam had come to inaugurate, that he made an offer to Abdul Kalam saying that, sir, I don't want to take any money from you. I don't want you to buy from me. You've done such a great service to me by inaugurating the showroom. I want to gift this to you. I want to give you a gift of this grinder. You please take it as a gift from me. But Abdul Kalam would not accept a gift. This was one thing that many people who knew Abdul Kalam will tell you, about his character, that throughout his life, whether it was in his personal life or in his professional life or in his public life, he never accepted gifts from anybody. This was his, uncompromising rule. Whether it was a trivial gift or it was a big gift, he would never accept gifts from people. So he told this man, the showroom owner, that I don't want a gift from you. I'll pay for it, but I don't have the money now. I'm taking the grinder with me, but I will send you a check after I go to Delhi. So this man happily handed over the grinder, packed it, gave a gift of it. And he thought, Abdul Kalam is the president. He's a busy man. He'll go to Delhi and forget about it. A week later, he got a call from Rashtrapati Bhavan. The president's secretary was calling him saying that I want, President Kalam said that he bought a grinder from you and I want to transfer this amount of money from you. So we are sending a check in your name. When you get that check, you please put it into your account and acknowledge that it has been credited. So he said, all right. And then he put the phone down. The check came in the post, but he did not, put it into his bank account. He did not go to encash the check. He kept it in his drawer. And because this man was eager to do a service to Abdul Kalam, he thought, by giving him a gift. And, he locked up the check in his office drawer. And he thought the president is busy. He will forget it. To his amazement, he found that a week later, again, he got a call from the president's office. And this time, Abdul Kalam himself was on the phone line. And he said, why haven't you encashed the check? I gave you a check and I can see that it has not been encashed. You please encash the check and credit it and give me a confirmation. So this man was taken aback, by the integrity of and the simplicity of this man called Abdul Kalam. Though he had become the president of India, he was so very particular about these details. And what the showroom owner did was, before encashing that check, he took a Xerox copy. He made a color Xerox of that check. He laminated it and he is hanging it in his showroom. Even today, if you go to that showroom in Coimbatore, you will see that this check signed by Abdul Kalam is hanging on the wall, because it reminds us of a president who had not compromised ever on these basic principles. This is the character of the man that stood out. So whether it is this incident or when he went to, for example, to DRDO in Pune, where another incident happened, that one of the scientists of DRDO came up to Abdul Kalam on the stage after his talk was over and gifted him a set of Parker pens and said, Kalam, do you remember that I was your classmate in Rameshwaram and we used to study together? And please accept this set of Parker pens as a memoir of our friendship, as a remembrance of our friendship. He thanked him, but he said, look, I have a principle that I will not accept gifts. So he returned it to him and said, why don't you give it to a poor child who is in need of pens? I don't need these Parker pens. So the scientist was a bit hurt that Kalam was being so finicky, so rigid about this, that he would not accept a gift from a friend. And then Kalam revealed that secret. He told a story during the talk publicly to all the scientists of DRDO as to why he never accepted friends. That when he was a child, they say one day, one of his father's friends brought a whole load of gifts, especially during Diwali time, it becomes a practice. And his father was not at home. And this man, his father's friend, handed over the gifts and went away saying that, you please tell your father that so-and-so came and gave these gifts. So when his father came home, Kalam says, he gave him a terrible beating. And from that day, Kalam says he has never accepted gifts in his life, because his father taught him that often compromise happens in the form of these gifts. When you accept a gift, you become bounded to the other person who's giving you the gift. You become morally inferior to that person. In fact, that the other person is expecting something out of you. It becomes an obligation, and therefore I do not want to become a party to that obligation. And therefore, even if that gift is given in good faith, even if it is given with a perfectly good intention, Kalam made it a point never to accept gifts in life. This is integrity. Why it took so much of time to illustrate these two incidents from a single person's life is just to drive that point home, my dear friends, that this is what is called integrity, that you never break a principle. Once you're convinced about it, once you're clear about it, you don't break it. Come what may, you will have to hold on to it. That is where life will test you, and that is where the test of your character will come. And if you can hold on to it, as I said, your reputation will walk in front of you like Kalam's reputation walked in front of him. So you can just apply this. People think that this is a very idealistic, simplistic kind of a scenario which we are presenting, and that in the normal society that we live in, living an ideal life like this, holding on rigidly to values, is counterproductive. And in fact, many of the business schools today, for example, teach this principle that if you have to succeed in a competitive business environment, you cannot be rigid. You have to be flexible. You have to be malleable. You have to learn to compromise somewhere. If your client gives you a glass of alcohol and asks you to consume it, and you're a teetotaler, for the sake of your client, you need to compromise and do it, right? So this principle of compromise, in fact, is being taught systematically through our schools and colleges. And therefore, you see, there is so much of confusion in the society around us. But you just look at the business models of corporations around you, my dear friends, and tell me how many corporations have succeeded in the long term which have compromised with these basic ethical and value systems. Which corporation has succeeded in the long term by, let's say, violating, say, honesty, the basic principle of honesty? Some of you are perhaps in Hyderabad. What better example can I give you of that IT company, whose founder went on fudging their, yearly annual statements. For 5 years, he went on fudging it because he thought that, this year I'm in a loss, next year I'll go into profit, and then I can make up, I can fudge these statements, and then I can, equalize the statements, profit loss statements. Next year he went into loss. Third year he went into loss. Fourth year he went into loss. Fifth year it blew into his face. The losses became so big that he could not hide it under the carpet anymore, and his chartered accountants could not do jugaad anymore, and it blew up into his face. It became, a public scandal. And just imagine those thousands of employees who were looking up to him for that leadership, who were employed in his company, who were now on the roads, on the streets, because he wanted to save his personal reputation. He wanted to show that his company was making consistent profits. If he had acknowledged to his stakeholders, to his employees, to people who had believed in him that they were going into losses in the very first year itself, he could have brought in what we call course correction. He could have done something to rectify what he was doing wrong, what the corporation was doing wrong. And perhaps really the second year, perhaps he would have gone into profit. But because he chose a shortcut of hiding it, of not acknowledging to himself and to his stakeholders that he was running into losses, the whole company collapsed. It had to be taken over by another company, and it runs in that other name today, right? So this is what you are doing, that when you compromise and you become part of a professional organization and then you compromise, as you grow in the ladder of that organization, you go on compromising. It is not only your own personal life that you are putting at stake, it is not only your personal reputation which you are putting at stake, but it is all those people who are dependent on you, who are looking up to you for providing that example of leadership, that you are putting at stake, right? So please remember this, okay, that if you choose a shortcut in life, then you will get only short-term success, you will get long-term failure. If you want success in life, you will have to choose that basic principle, that you have to aim for long-term success, build your integrity, and your reputation will walk in front of you. Let me give you a positive example to illustrate. I've been giving mostly negative examples, but there are positive examples, right? Again, this example is right here in Coimbatore, in Madurai. There is a eye hospital called Arvind Eye Hospital. You please go to Google and search, verify what I'm saying. Please study the business model of this Arvind Eye Hospital. It was set up by a philanthropist who wanted to prove to the world that it is possible to run a successful professional organization, even a commercial entity, it is possible to run on a philanthropic idea. That it is not necessary to be cutthroat. It is not necessary to be always, competitively a cruel kind of a model that you need to have in order to succeed in business. That it is possible to help others and in the process also be successful. So you look at the amazing model that Arvind Eye Hospital runs on, is that out of 10 patients who come to them, they charge only 3 patients. 7 patients are given free treatment, and this is done based on their social and economic background. When a poor patient approaches them for, let's say, for a cataract surgery, if that patient is not able to afford that surgery, they perform a free surgery. But from patients who are able to afford it, they do charge them. So on the whole, out of the patients who are coming to them, out of 10 patients who come to them, they charge only 3 patients. 7 patients get free surgeries done almost in that hospital. Now, if you have to go by, as I said, the business theories and business models that are taught in our IIMs and all the business schools, what do you think will happen to Arvind Eye Hospital? If they're charging only 3 out of 10 patients, will they be in profit or will they be running in loss? Please go and study their profit loss statements every year. You'll be amazed to see the kind of profits that they are making. They've been growing, in fact, from strength to strength. The number of centers that they have opened over the years, they have now centers all over Tamil Nadu. They have hospitals all over Tamil Nadu, which are still running on that model alone. Okay, so this is a very, very inspiring model of success, where Arvind Eye Hospital is. Can you please mute yourself? Unless you want to ask a question, you can raise a hand, and during the interaction we can have questions. Otherwise, please keep yourself muted. So I was saying that it is possible. Arvind Eye Hospital is one of those examples, and there are many examples around us where of business models which are doing this, which are building a strong foundation, a long-term foundation for their professional success. There are individual businessmen that I know. There are gold merchants I know in Coimbatore who will never mix any impurity in the gold that they are offering to their clients. And therefore, you will see that when the wedding season comes, when the gold season comes, a lot of customers will prefer these small gold merchants than going to big brands, which invest heavily in marketing and advertising, because, as I said, your reputation walks in front of you. The negative example, again, if you look at it, there was a very big eye hospital which opened with so much of fanfare in the last few years. And then, that brand has gone into oblivion today. It is almost shut down today. I don't want to name it again because I don't want to go, court political controversy. But it is, it became an open secret that a very reputed politician had invested all his black money into this particular eye hospital, which had started all over India. And within a span of 3 years, because that particular politician went into trouble, there was a CBI inquiry against him. That hospital also had to shut down, right? So these are glaring examples, my dear friends, right in front of our eyes. All we need to do is keep our eyes and ears open, and if you look at it, we will see this happening in front of us. That those who are investing in building their integrity, those who are laying that long-term foundation for success, they will succeed spectacularly in the long run by holding on to these very moral, ethical value systems. And those who compromise will go down in the long run. Okay, so this is the third thumb rule that we should carry home today. Okay, please aim for long-term success, not for short-term success. Please aim for long-term gains and not for short-term gains. If you do this, if you keep these thumb rules in mind, whenever you sleep, whenever you wake up, all you need to do is remind yourself of these 3 thumb rules, and you will always remain in a very safe way. You will remain steady. Okay, it will keep you in good stead in any given situation in life. You will always do what is right. The conviction will come to you that this is what needs to be done and this has to be done. Okay, so we will stop here for today. Tomorrow we will look at the spiritual and the philosophical foundations of ethics and values. Okay, so I'll give you a more cosmic view of why our ancestors made these moral ethical principles the basic building blocks of spirituality itself. Okay, so with that we stop here for today. Thank you for listening to me patiently. We can have some interaction now. We can take some questions now if you have. You can unmute yourself and ask, or you can type it in the chat box and I will take that question. Sarathi is raising his hand. Go ahead, Sarathi, please.
I want to ask you,
Yes.
Pramod sir,
Yes.
that can you please tell me the integrity of character? Okay, that what you told the thumb rule, that thought and then the things. Please tell me.
Okay. Okay. Swami Vivekananda says a man who has made 5 ideas his life has more education than a man who has read a whole library. That is essentially what he means by that. That mere information is does not help you in building character. Mere knowledge will not help you in building character. If you can make even one principle the fulcrum of your life, right? Once you have understood that principle, once you have clarity about it, if you make it the center of your life, and whatever you do, if you center it around that one particular principle, over a period of time, what you will be building is that life of integrity. So essentially what I'm asking you to do is make a commitment for life, not just for one day, 1 week, 1 year, right? Like these New Year resolutions that people take, stupid New Year resolutions we take. January 1st, we take the New Year resolution. 2nd of January, it is broken, gone, forgotten, right? Why? Because we take impractical resolutions. I will never get angry in life. Impossible. No human being can remain without getting angry in life. At some point of time or the other, life will present you with a situation. Why does anger come? If you understand the nature of anger, you will know how to manage anger without hurting yourself or hurting others. But it is impossible not to get angry. Okay, so if you take an impractical resolution and say, I will never become angry in life, then you are taking a resolution which is going to be eventually broken. You cannot hold up to it. And therefore, clarity is therefore so very important. That is why I'm saying that all, the root of it, of all these moral systems is that you should understand those value systems clearly. If your understanding is clear, then that understanding, that clarity will become conviction. Gradually, it will lead into that conviction. It will give you, the path will open up clearly before you as to why you should be doing what you are doing. Right? So try to understand those value systems, try to understand the nature of the human mind, and then the clarity, once it comes, hold on to it. Like Vivekananda says, hold on to it like grim death. Come what may, you should not give up on it once the clarity comes. So the first step is building the clarity. Okay, so that is again a gradual process. You need to keep thinking deeply about what is the goal of your life, what is the goal of human life itself. What do you want to achieve in your life? What is the goal that you have? What are the short-term goals you have? What are the long-term goals you have? How do you achieve those short-term, long-term goals without compromising on the means, without compromising on these fundamentals? That should be the contemplation that you should start with, right? So once you understand the nature of these value systems, then it will become, a part and parcel of your personality. So one of the great teachers that I learned from, he used to give a tongue twister, but the tongue twister is a very, very profound statement, a thumb rule again that we can take along with us. Please think about it, because you've asked that question. I'll give you that 4th thumb rule. Okay, he says a value is a value only when the value of the value is valuable to me. Okay, it's a tongue twister, but if you understand that statement, it's a beautiful statement. It says, again, I'll repeat it. A value is a value only when the value of that value is valuable to me. Okay, what essentially he's saying is that the value will become a value to us only when we understand why that value is valuable. What is behind that value? What is the idea behind that value? I'll give you a gross example that all of us understand. Money, right? We all understand the value of money. Why? Because we know what money can buy for us, and therefore money becomes valuable to us. But when I say honesty, do you understand why honesty is a value? What is there in honesty which is valuable to you? Unless you have that understanding, honesty will not become valuable to you. Unless you understand why truthfulness is a value and what is there in it which is valuable to you, that truthfulness will not become a value to you, and so on and so forth. Apply it to any principle, this idea will apply. So try to understand the nature of that value, the nature of that principle, why it is a universal value, why we have to hold on to it, and then that process of building integrity will start. Once the clarity comes, all you need to do is just hold on to it, not to compromise on it. You will have a life of integrity.
I want to ask you something, sir. I want to
Yes.
ask you that what is you told thought transforms
Okay.
to what? Thought, action, character. Can you give that thing? Please say that thing another time.
I said that the whole root of human personality and character begins with thought. The life experience of human beings begins with thought. Without thought there is no mind, without mind there is no human being, right? So therefore everything begins at this stage of the thoughts. So therefore thought control, understanding, being aware of our thoughts is the first step. Clarity of thought is the first step, which leads to conviction. When you have 100% clarity on a particular idea, it becomes a conviction. It no more remains merely an idea. It no more remains merely a theory. It no more remains merely an armchair principle. I'll give you an example. You go to a friend's house, you see a holographic 3D painting on the wall, but the painting seems jumbled up, right? It looks all confusing to you, but you go on concentrating on it, the 3D pieces fall into place, and suddenly you discover that in all that jumbled up 3D holographic painting that is there, the Statue of Liberty stands out, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Like a puzzle, it stands in front of you, but when you apply your mind to it, you go on contemplating on it, you go on focusing on it, you go on concentrating on it, the pattern in that jumbled up painting emerges. And once you see it with clarity, once you see the Statue of Liberty emerging out of it, next time again when you see that painting, that confusion will not come back to you. You will directly see, you will directly perceive that Statue of Liberty emerging out of that painting, right? So once you have that clarity, once confusion goes away, right, it remains with you, it becomes conviction, it becomes part of your personality. What better example to give you than Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's life, right? We are doing this session as part of Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence. His disciple Swami Vivekananda wanted to test him and his values. So they say that Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had taken a vow that he will never touch money in his life. He goes to the Ganga, takes a piece of earth, takes a piece of mud in one hand, and takes a coin in the other hand, a rupee coin or a silver coin in the other hand. And he says, from today onwards, this money is equivalent to this mud, this earth. It has no value to me. And he throws both into the Ganga and renounces money. He says, never in my life again will I earn money, will I accept money, will I touch money ever in my life. And therefore, Vivekananda really wanted to test him and see whether he is holding on to that principle and how far he is willing to go to hold on to that principle. So they say every evening Ramakrishna Paramahamsa would go to the Dakshineshwari, Kali temple to pray. And by the time he returned that day, Vivekananda had set a small test for him. He went into Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's room, his own guru's room, and he slipped the small coin into his cot, the cot on which Ramakrishna Paramahamsa would sit, into the mattress. He had slipped a coin. And they say when Paramahamsa came back and sat on that cot, he jumped up, just as he would touch the cot, he would jump up. And then he told his attender that whenever I sit on the cot, I feel that as though I'm being stung by an insect, by a scorpion. There is something in this cot. Please look for it. There is something that has been kept in this cot. Please search for it. And when the attender searches, he finds that coin. Okay. So to that extent, you see that this is an extreme example, perhaps, of our yogis who had carried their values and principles to such a logical extreme that their whole nervous, emotional, physical system had become attuned to it, that even without their knowledge, if somebody tried to violate it, their mind would alert them to it. Their mind would not accept a compromise on that value. To that extent, it is possible. This is what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa demonstrated in his life, right? So when that conviction comes, nothing in the world can shake you from it, right? You'll be rooted in it, and that is how clarity leads to conviction. Conviction will lead to character. Your character is What you are essentially, your personality is nothing but that sum total of all the impressions which have been created in your mind, right? You're building up those impressions. Whenever you think a thought, Vivekananda says, it's like, imagine a piece of clay. You're making an impression on that piece of clay. So your every thought that you're thinking in your mind, it leaves behind a subtle impression on the mind matter. And over a period of time, all these millions of impressions is what you carry in your subconscious mind, which unconsciously drives your actions. It influences your actions. Your likes and dislikes are formed because of all this unconscious conditioning that is happening. So the whole of spirituality, the whole of philosophy, the whole of religion, the whole of this ethical moral training is to, do this conscious conditioning and to decondition all the, things that we have acquired over a period of a long time, over a period of many births, those likes and dislikes, wrong education, wrong ideas, which have gone deep into our subconscious mind and which are consciously or unconsciously influencing us. We need to undo the influence, decondition our minds through a conscious process of training, right? So this is what all philosophical, spiritual, moral training is all about, that consciously you go on undoing the effect of those past impressions, samskaras as they are called, and you acquire new impressions. This is what building that life of integrity means. I hope I have answered your question. Anybody else, if there are questions?
Yes, good evening, sir. I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
I have a question regarding the first thumb rule that you have mentioned.
Okay.
Actually, the first question is that you have mentioned about the root cause of moral behavior is the consistency and predictability in our behavior.
Correct.
But then, sir, I would like to ask, even in case of criminals, as you have mentioned also,
Yes.
that there is a certain pattern and consistency and predictableness in the criminal activities that you do. So then how does it form the root cause of morality?
Okay.
And also I would like to ask the second question, and then I would like to hear you answer that.
Okay.
And the second question is, you said the first thumb rule says treat others like you wish to be treated.
Okay.
But as of the practical reality today that we are concerned, if we have to apply that, most of the times, 9 out of 10 times, the way you treat others won't be returned back to you. It is just you giving and they taking. They never give you back as of this present era. So how do you think that will work in the present times, sir?
Okay, Sahiti, first question is a mischievous question. It's a naughty question. Okay, it's what we call in Sanskrit as vitandavada. Okay, you're thinking, one has to look at the 360-degree view of the idea. Okay, not apply it in exclusion to others. When I say consistency of behavior, it does not mean consistency of criminal behavior. Okay, I meant that consistency of behavior in a way that our mutual human interactions become fruitful for each other, not hurtful to each other, right? So that is, one should not take that principle out of context. It has to be applied with the other universal value systems. Okay, so it is not that because a criminal is consistent in his behavior, therefore he is a person of values or moral character, right? There's again a confusion. Often in the Gita also this comes when Krishna says, where he says, what is that word used for it? Yoga karmasu kaushalam, okay, where he says that it's often translated in a wrong way into English as efficiency in action yoga, right? That's a wrong understanding. It is not efficiency in action. Karmasu kaushalam, kushalam there has to be interpreted as dexterity in choosing, viveka in action, choosing what is right and what is wrong in any given action is what we call viveka buddhi. In any given situation, the first thing that I need to do is choose what is right and what is wrong in that situation and act accordingly. So if that viveka is there, if that discrimination is there, then the rest will fall into place, right? Without that discrimination, without that viveka, action should not be done without first analyzing whether the action is right or wrong, right? You are not supposed to act on it. So the question of consistently behaving in a wrong way does not arise. Okay. Coming to the second question, whether whether others will return to us when we give or not. Okay, as I said, I was giving you example. In the short term, it looks like that, Sahiti, that perhaps we are not getting returns over what we are giving to society. Okay, but as I said, look at the long term. Okay, it is always like this, that in the short term it may appear that others are not returning it to you. Okay, but at the same time, see, what you are saying is that one does not have to be a simpleton. Okay, the previous batch also this question came up where a boy said, what if I'm cheated by others, if I'm I'm holding on to values but others are not holding on to it, and therefore what if I'm cheated by others, right? Holding on to values, morals and ethics does not mean that you have to be a fool, does not mean that you have to be an innocent person who's taken for a ride by others, right? You're also conscious of others' behavior. So if they're not reciprocating, then the only way is to learn how to deal with them. For there, again, there are certain rules which our scriptures have given as to how to deal when your interaction with another human being, when you're encountering a human being whose set of values and principles are, let's say, antithetical against your own principles and values, then, where is the interaction possible? Right? So one has to learn to develop the right attitude to such people. How do I deal with people who are, say, violating those moral principles which are valuable to me? The other person is not living by that value, and therefore I cannot have an equitable kind of an interaction with that person. So I'll have to maintain a distance from such people, and over a long term, I will have to develop a network of relationships, of people, of human beings who will have a similar value system. That is the only way that we can have a meaningful social interaction in society, right? So, but we need not become so cynical and say that everybody in society is like that around us. As I said, you just have to look into your background and you will find any number of examples of people who are holding on to these value systems even in today's time. They are living by those principles, they are living by those values, and they are setting an example, glorious example they are setting to others. In all domains you will find such people. So we should set them as our examples, we should set them as our beacons in front of us and follow them, and not those who are not returning our practice of those values. I hope I've answered your questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this invigorating session. Very helpful for conscious conditioning of our mind.
Thank you, Sarathi, for the feedback. If there are any other questions, otherwise, over to the organizers, please.
Hello, sir. I have got one question.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Sir, you have said splitting the mind with the one soul, splitting the soul from one part to another part. One is justifying, one is
Yes.
Justifying the condition, one
Yes.
is opposing the conditions.
Yes.
How we need to come out of the opposing? Sometimes, most of the times, I don't want to do that, but the condition, it is forcing me to do.
What is forcing you to do?
The mind, I'm telling you, the mind.
So it is your own mind, right? So if you don't have control over your mind, then who can bring control over your mind? It's easier said than done, I know, right? It's a difficulty that all of us face. It is the classic example of Duryodhana that is given in the Mahabharata. Duryodhana comes to Krishna and says, "Janami dharmam janami adharmam nachame nivritti." I know what is dharma, but I am not able to follow it, sir. I know what is adharma, but I am not able to prevent myself from doing it. Right? So this is what Vivekananda used to call weakness of the flesh. The mind is willing, but the flesh is weak, he would say. Right? So this is again, it's a process of training. Right? It's over a period of time that you develop it. So instead of having a split personality, that the very fact that you're acknowledging that there is a conflict in your mind, there's a conflict of interest in your mind, that there are two sides to your mind. One is tempting you to do the wrong thing, the other is fighting against it. The very fact that you're acknowledging it, you're becoming aware of it, is the first step to success. So there is that, again, that golden thumb rule that says, which side of your personality you nurture, that personality, that side of the personality will become stronger. It's like a master who has two dogs with him. Which dog you feed more, that dog will become stronger. So in each one of us, there is a good side, there is an evil side, there is a positive side, there is a dark side, right? Which side do we feed? Over a period of time, that side will become stronger. So therefore, that is why you see those small actions are so important. So in everyday life, in what we read, in what we watch, in how we think, in how we behave, in the kind of people that we move around with, if we go on nurturing the good dog within our mind, and that good dog goes on becoming stronger and stronger, there will be a time when it will overpower the other one, right? The conflict will cease to exist, and you will become strong enough to carry into action what you know to be right. That is the only way. There is no shortcut to this. It has to be, an inner struggle. You have to conquer the inner self before you can conquer the world. There is no shortcut to this. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So you told that it's very important that we do not kill our inner voice
Yes.
and understand our weakness and work upon our strengths.
Yes. Right.
Eventually, so as happens is that there is a internal talk constantly that goes on within the mind,
Correct.
and it gets intermingled with another voice. So I mean, how to filter that this is the pure inner voice that I should adhere to? I'm asking this question because in context to the education system, we talk about women education, and today the scenario is that after being educated, if a woman wants to bring up the next generation, profession is imposed, earning is imposed, and the freedom is curbed. So here morality crisis emerges and the woman submerges in that pressure.
Mm.
So what should she do? I mean, isn't
Okay.
isn't I mean, how to evolve out of it? And what is the right inner voice we should adhere to, and not the pros and cons? I'm not saying that I'm being pulled by the materialistic gains, but
Mm.
what is it that this is the right choice? This is the inner voice I must stick to and shun the rest. How to
Okay.
filter?
See, the basic, requirement we say for a moral life, for an ethical life, for a spiritual life, is what we call leisure, good leisure. Okay, not laziness. Idleness is not leisure. But if you have to, lead a life of commitment to these values, you require a certain amount of time that you need to spend on yourself every night. At least you need at least half an hour to 1 hour to contemplate on your own actions for that day, what you have done that day, and evaluate it in the light of these benchmarks or these ideals that we have set for ourselves. And unless that leisure is there, unless the time investment is there, achieving excellence, improving upon ourselves will become impossible. So this is in fact, the basic problem of modern life, is that we do too many things at a time, too much in a day, too much of, we have become busybodies. We have become such busybodies, literally, that we don't have time for what we are actually supposed to be doing, right? We have forgotten the higher goals, deeper goals of human life, and there is such a blind rush for material comforts and material success that in the process everything else becomes subsumed. So this is a basic conflict. Whether it is a man or a woman does not matter. The conflict that you are talking about in a woman's life, the same thing applies to a man's life also equally, right? Only thing is perhaps the social context differs. There are extra pressures on a woman than there are than there are on men in a patriarchal society, in the patriarchal kind of world that we are living in, and therefore maybe you're partly justified in bringing up the situation of women, but the basic conflict is the same, right? So therefore you'll have to create the time investment for yourself. You'll have to create a time for yourself every day, a fixed time. This is why discipline becomes important. This is why rituals were created. This is where meditation comes in. This is where dhyana comes in. This is why traditionally we said shravana manana nididhyasana. You should listen to the idea, then you should contemplate over it, and then meditate on it. Only then it becomes part of your character. So in that process, your mind will gain that clarity as to choose which one of those inner voices is the right voice for you, right? Your intuition will become stronger in that process. So the more the mind becomes calmer, quieter, clearer, like it's like a pond surface. If the pond is agitated, you take a stick and go on churning that pond, all the mud in the pond comes out, right? So when we are leading this kind of a busy life, this is the state of the pond, that it is always muddy, it is always in a state of churning. Clarity becomes impossible. The mud has to settle down, all the dust has to settle down. Only then, in a calm mind, that clarity will arise. When the pond surface is clear, you will be able to see the bottom of the pond. You will be able to see your own reflection in that pond. So if when your mind becomes calm and clear, you will be able to see the self. You will be able to see the higher self in it. So creating that discipline is important. You have to create the time for yourself every day where you look back upon your own day's actions and contemplate as to what was right and wrong. Only then that Viveka Buddhi will develop. Again, there is no shortcut to it. Okay, cannot be done in a day. It is only over a period of time that it will come. I hope I've answered that question.
So is there
Yes,
any course
thank you.
related
Thank
to
you.
in Vishwa Vidyapeetham in your Amrita? Vishwa
Yes.
Vidyapeetham? Any kind of course which is related to?
We do have a course, but then you see, it is only for the students of the university. We have not yet started offering it to outside participants like an online course. So that course is mainly for the undergraduate and the postgraduate students who come there. It's a one-year course. It's called Cultural Education, where we give them an overview of Indian culture, heritage, values, spirituality, and all these basics are taught to them. But if you want to learn, you see, Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence is doing these courses for you. They're doing a course on personality development. They're doing a course on mind control. They're teaching yoga and meditation. So you're in Hyderabad, then you have very easy access or a choice that you have in these weekend courses that Swami Bodhmayanji is doing. Please do enroll for those courses, and there you would have started your journey onto this path.
Thank you.
One thing I want to say, that the management, the teaching to the management school should be the teachings of Swami Vivekananda, Swami Sadadevi, and Sri Ramakrishna, and all the spiritual things should be included in the curriculum of management schools. Because I have a personal experience I want to share, that I had a great opportunity to stay during the Durga Puja days in Belur Math. Okay, so during the days I saw many things, but the nuances of management that I learned there has helped me immensely in my personal life. And that's why I want to say that in the management schools it is not taught, but in Belur Math this should be incorporated, the spiritual things. This is
I
my
agree
personal
with you,
opinion.
Shanati. Yeah, it has to be taught, and there is a growing interest in it. You see, if you look at the national education policy, the latest policy which the government has brought out, there's a great emphasis on all these values, morals, ethics, traditional Indian knowledge systems. The change is coming. Only change is slow. When you cannot expect a government to move very fast. So, and there is a huge bureaucratic system which blocks this change from happening. There is a political ideological underpinning also. There is a conflict of ideologies also that is happening in India. So to see this change happening, becoming mainstream in all the business schools or schools and colleges will take some time, but the change is happening. That change is already going on. But as I said, we are not here to change the system and everybody, right? We should try and look at first ourselves. Are we becoming the change or not? That is the most important thing. And as individuals, as we become more and more part of the change, we will also become change agents, will become, catalysts in bringing about the change in whichever domain of society where we are working in, where we are living in. Our very presence, our very life should become that beacon light, should become that ray of hope for others around us. That should be the focus of our lives, and the system will fall in place. Any other questions? Or can we stop here for today and continue tomorrow? It's 8 o'clock now. Over to the organizers, please. Maharaj, are you there? Can we close the session for today? I think we'll end the session. Maybe they are busy, or maybe they're not able to unmute themselves. Or hello.
Yes, sir. Okay. I think we should close.
Yeah, we can end the session for today. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you everyone for listening
Yes, sir.
patiently.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you and
Thanks
good
a lot,
night.
sir.